how are they going to get these monopolies? What are they going to do? Now, how many people here have taken an economics course? Taking an economics course, okay? So maybe some of these terms are going to be familiar to you, and you all can help me maybe. To get a monopoly, part of the thing was to, in some ways, take over things that would give you strategic business advantages. And so we talk about having either horizontal expansion or integration, or vertical expansion or integration. Have you all heard those terms? Does that sound familiar to my economics people? Maybe? Oh, okay, okay. So yes, that book, that papery thing you all have read. Okay. No, they say. That's why we pay you the 50 cents a day. All right. So let's talk about this just real quickly. Horizontal expansion. Let's give an example of that. First of all, name me a product that if you were going to go to the store that might have multiple different brands that you could choose from to buy, that might be kind of the, but it would be something you could buy, but would have multiple different brands you could buy from.
Shampoo.
Okay, I heard soap and shampoo. You are very clean people. I like that. Okay. So let's go for soap. Let's start with soap. So if you're going to go for the soap, if you're the Irish Spring Company, or your Dove, or Dial, or whatever along those lines, if you wanted to increase your market share, if the people who make Dove buy out the company that makes Irish Spring, what have they done? They have engaged in what we would call horizontal expansion, because if you buy up somebody who makes the same product that you do in order to expand your market share. Now, of course, if somebody goes in, instead of just one choice being your company, multiple choices are your company, right? And then all the money all comes back to you. That's horizontal expansion. You're buying out your competitors. Okay. Vertical expansion. Let's raise it. Besides soap and shampoo, let's go off the clean for a moment. What might be another guess? I'm sorry?
Knee braces?
I don't know enough about companies that make knee braces, but that's, Computers. Okay, let's try computers. Okay, I hear I might have heard something about that on occasion. I'm a PC. Okay. Let's say if Dell was to buy out Hewlett Packard or Apple, that would be, as we said, horizontal, right? But let's say that the Apple company was to buy out Intel. Now, if Apple bought out Intel, what does Intel make? Okay, processor chips. And those processor chips are used by lots of different computer companies. Now, would that give Apple an advantage in the market? Yeah, because they could actually get cheaper processor chips for themselves, and for other companies, Hewlett Packard, Dell, and all the others, what could they do? They could charge more for it, okay? In that case, that would be an example of what we call vertical expansion or vertical integration. Vertical integration is when you actually expand by buying out something that is either something that makes your product, that transports your product, or that sells your product. Apple already does this, actually, in the case of vertical expansion on the other side, because they said, you know what, if you go to Computer City or if you go to Best Buy, speaking of Apple.
My alarm, sorry.
It's a very Apple day today. All right. Anyway, but if you were to, so what were you being reminded to do?
Oh, I don't know, it just went on.
Oh,
It's on vibrate.
Oh, no, I was just asking you, but I was just curious, you know, if like it was time for your medication or something.
No.
Okay, anyway, it's kind of like, oh, anxiety pills, I have to take them in the middle of the okay, anyway, he stresses me out. All right, anyway, what the hell was I saying? Oh, yeah, but Apple, so say they felt Best Buy isn't representing them well enough for all that, so what did they do? They went ahead and created the Apple Store. And so as a result, that's another example of vertical integration, because they said, what the hell? We'll just sell it ourselves, right? We'll make our own stores, and then that will be able to highlight our products, and that's going to be a better way to sell it. In fact, Apple's even gone a step further. they've recently, as you all probably know, there's an app store if you have Apple products and all this, and they just recently into the software have a little button. Now there's an app store for the Mac OS. You can actually buy those. Those are all forms of vertical expansion. Okay, does that make sense? Vertical versus horizontal? We all go to that. Okay. Now, how are they going to get these forms of expansion, vertical or horizontal expansion? Well, some of the things that they could do is obviously, just merge with other companies. That's what we think today, right? We just buy out another company and they'll be good, right? Okay. Problem is, sometimes you don't want to have people know you're buying out another company for legal reasons, or you might get screwed or any problems. Other times, it was actually because 19th century law was not really well suited for some of these companies. I mean, all of the merger laws were state laws, but were all these companies all in one state necessarily? No, in fact, many of them were operating in multi-states, and the laws were all different in different places, and so sometimes it was just easier to skirt the laws, right, or find ways around them. Now, of course, let me ask this. Why do we want a monopoly in the first place? I mean, it's nice to have control. What can you do with control in the marketplace? Why do these robber barons want that? What's the value? Absolute price gouging, right? We can actually set the price and make sure that you have to pay it. And so, as a result, if we force that, then you can do so. Let me give an example from today. My father, unfortunately, has been very ill. That's unfortunate, but it does happen. He's requiring very frequent blood transfusions, about one every 2 weeks. Unfortunately, you can't take blood transfusions that often because iron will build up in your system, and if the iron builds up too much, it will kill you. And so there's a particular drug, and it's only made by one company, that, I know that sounds odd, right, but a drug that actually helps flush the iron out of your system. If you do not take this drug and you're on that many transfusions, you will die. This drug, the company charges, which they're the only company that does so, it's a monopoly, so you can expect they want a little bit of profit from it, right? So they charge only $8,000 a month for the drug treatment. And if you do not pay $8,000 a month, you die. Now, thankfully, due to both games with insurance and having to beg for a grant from the very company that's charging you $8,000 and all that, my dad is able to take the medication. But I mean, not how many of us make $8,000 a month, for this sort of. And that would only be one drug, of course, that he has to take. Clearly, that's only addressing one symptom. It's not addressing the problem that he has. So that's the value of a monopoly, right? You can gouge the consumer. Yay! Okay. And that will be able to take you over. So yay, monopoly. Okay. So how do you manage to do this? But maybe sometimes you don't want to be seen as being part of a monopoly. So how can you avoid that? One of the techniques that was used was called a pool or a cartel. Okay. Now, pool was the 19th century term. Cartel is what we use today to describe this kind of behavior. And when I say cartel, of course I know the first thing you think of when I say, what is a cartel? What do you think of? Yeah, okay. But before that we think Mexican drug cartel, let's put that aside for a moment because they operate slightly differently, I would argue. Somewhat more colorfully, okay, the 19th century cartels. What is a cartel if we take the drug cartel off to the side? What are we talking about? How does a cartel work?
Group of people get together and decide what they all want to do as a group.
Okay.
Instead of competition, you have cooperation.
Okay, so what it is when the heads of multiple companies that all make the same thing collude for price fixing. Okay, so if multiple different companies, which is, by the way, it's illegal in the United States now to do this, okay? But if you were to, say, have all of the people who make milk come together and they say, okay, we're only going to sell milk at $10 a gallon starting tomorrow, and say there's only 3 or 4 major milk makers. Well, then if they all say it's $10, it doesn't matter who you buy milk from, it's going to cost you $10. That would be a cartel, or using 19th century terms, a pool. Okay, but pools or cartels were not the most popular method of price fixing. Why not? What's the problem with a pool or cartel?
can't control what the other guys do.
Okay, that's the